Alright, hey guys, remember CCG back in the video. With this video, I'm bringing you guys my Kozmo deck profile, and this is post Phantom Nightmare. So we're going to get started here. I run one copy of Kozmo Dark Eclipser. It's great. It's a trap negate, which isn't super relevant, but that's good when you're able to do it. It's also just going to search out one of your Kozmo monsters. You only really need the one copy. 3 copies of Dark Destroyer here. It's the most powerful card in the deck, as it enables you to interact during your opponent's turn. But not only that, you can use it to pop itself and use it as a search, maybe get out a straw man. Use the effect, bring it back out, and then from there you can link away or even use Kozmo Destroyer's effect again during the end phase. One copy of Therian King Regulus. This card just gives you another form of interaction, which this deck really struggles with, and it's pretty easy to get out. It also works with the new Psychic Processor as well, so that's good to see. Then we have one copy of Kozmo Forerunner. It's a light machine search, and that's relevant for Psychic Arsenal, which you'll see when we get to it. Then we have 3 copies of Cashier Fenrir. It's a psychic monster that gives you a bit of interaction, so that's good to see. And not only that, but we can actually cheat it out using Psychic Processor, so in case we need to do that, we actually have the option to do so. 2 copies of Slip Rider. It is a spell trap destruction, which could be relevant at times. Not only that, but it also enables your Nova and Infinity play. 2 copies of Dark Lady. Dark Lady is decent because it is actually a monster negate, powerful Kozmo psychic monster. 1 copy of Wicked Witch. It's another Dark Kozmo name, so it's good to see for that. And obviously, you can pay 1,000 life points in order to make it indestructible, which could be relevant, but most of the time you're going to be using it just for like the Psychic Arsenal. 1 copy of Kozmo Farm Girl. She can be really good if you're able to attack your opponent. Otherwise, it's a little bit difficult to really get her going. 1 copy of Kozmo Sword Trooper. It enables you to continue your plays by just targeting a Psychic Kozmo monster in your grave, summoning it out, and then potentially being able to combo off of that. Then we have 3 copies of the new Psychic Processor. So this card is not a Kozmo card, but it came as an indirect support to Kozmo, which is good to see, as you're able to special summon up to 2 machine, psychic, and or cyber monsters from your hand. And then when this card is banished, you can add it to your hand during your next standby phase, which could be good in the cases of Allure of Darkness or just using its own effect. But besides that, it's going to be able to cheat out 2 of your monsters, and from there you can extend. So I like to see 3 copies of it. And then we have 2 copies of Strawman. This card's great, just like I said, with the Dark Destroyer combo. It's good to see, and being able to cheat out a Kozmo monster as another name and another monster in order to link away. That's good to see. 1 copy of Kozmo Tin Can. So I decided to just run the 1 copy here, just because it is going to be pitching a bunch of Kozmo cards into the grave. We really just need to search for the first turn, and it's a little slow anyway, so I decided to just go for the 1 copy. But if you are running a different build that's less aggressive, you can definitely increase this to 3 copies. 3 copies of Allure of Darkness, because this deck can be kind of bricky, and you want to just be able to use something like Allure of Darkness to draw more cards in, and not only that, banishing isn't too bad for the deck, and there's a bunch of dark monsters in the deck, so that's good to see. 2 copies of the new Psychic Arsenal. So this card lets you target 1 psychic monster you control and pay life points equal to its level. Then you can add a machine monster with the same attribute but a higher level from your deck to your hand. This just means that any monster, any of your dark psychic monsters will be able to search out your Dark Destroyer, your Dark Eclipser, and then any of your light psychic monsters can search out your Forerunner or your Slip Rider. So that's always good to see, and it's just a searcher that's more reliable. And then during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the grave, you can actually banish it in order to target 1 of each of your banished psychic and machine monsters. Place 1 of them on the bottom of the deck, and if you do, you can add the other. So it's a bit of recyclability, which is a little bit difficult for the deck to do at times, so that's good to see. And then we have 1 copy of Caused by the Grave, because Ash Blossom can be kind of bad for the deck, so you really want to be able to hit that. And then we have 3 copies of Super Polymerization, just because you do have that flex spot in the extra deck. And Super Poly is just a powerful card, so it's a great addition here. We have 3 copies of E-Telly. This card is great because we have a bunch of level 3 or under psychic monsters, so it's great. Cosmo Town can help make the deck less bricky, and also add cards that are banished into your hand, so that's good to see. 3 copies of Imperm as just a hand trap of choice, just because we had a bit of space and decided to put that in there. Now before we go to the extra deck, if you guys are enjoying the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that, and let's get started here. So we have Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, Dragostopelia, Garura, and Mud Dragon as just our targets for Super Poly. Then we have Chaos Angel, because we do have light and dark monsters, and of course there's not a lot of instances where you want to get these out, just because you want to be activating your Kozmo monsters effect. In case you need to, you can go into this, and it's, you know, we do have like a setup like Kozmo Strawman that's able to cheat out Dark Destroyer from the Banish Zone, and then you can synchro into it, and that'll be a level 10 synchro, and then you would enable both of their effects. So it's just another option there, and it's pretty easy to get out. We have other options like Dark Lady and Slip Rider. We have, of course, the Sword Trooper and the Forerunner, so we have quite a few options to going into it. And then we have one copy of Typhon because it's a powerful Exceed monster and it doesn't really require much to set up. And then we have one copy of number 38 because it is a spell negate, one copy of Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord as a monster negate, one copy of Infinity and Nova because we have 2 level 5 Light Machine monsters that we can get out, one copy of Appaloosa because we can get out a decent amount of Kozmo monsters out, and then being able to link with them is great. And then we have Dark the Dark Charmer because we can take our opponent's monster, link climb with it, SP Little Knight just to banish something during our opponent's turn, IP Masquerena of course in order to enable that SP Little Knight. And then we have one copy of Anima because we do have the Tin Can, so we can go into this in case we want to take something from our opponent. And then here we have the 2 copies of Kozmo Tin Can and 1 copy of Kozmojo as cards to consider. I didn't end up running these just because I decided that the 3rd copy of Psychic Processor was better than the Kozmojo, and the build is more aggressive, so it doesn't really need that many copies of Kozmo Tin Can, but if you want to, you can add more space for it. This new indirect support for Kozmo really does help out the deck, but I do hope that we get new dedicated support to Kozmo in the near future. But otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.